Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start the class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhur Bhavasvaha, Tatsavitra Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamya. Om Sehna Bhavatu Sehna Bhunaktu Saviryam Karvavai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. Let's open our books on the Mundak Upanishad. This is a chapter 1, section 2, verse number 4. And in these verses, this Rishi is talking about the rituals. And in the Vedic time, the rituals were all associated with the fire ceremony. And in this verse, especially verse number 4, different names of different flames of the fire. That's how the students or the aspirants were supposed to concentrate on the fire. See, just like if we have a form of Lord Krishna, for example, we'll say his eyes, his nose, is the color of the skin, his feet. Okay, so different parts of the body. So that's how different flames over here, those ancient rishis, they concentrated upon. That's how you should understand it. Okay, because we are not familiar with this terminology anymore. But back then, this was the terminology. With the time, rituals change. Okay, and the purpose of ritual is to clean our mind, to concentrate our mind. That is the purpose. Okay, so let's look at what this Rishi is telling his students back then. Kali karali cha manojvah cha sulohita ya cha sudhumravarnah sufullangle vishvaruchi cha devi lelai manaha iti sapt jivaha. Kali means a black one. Karali, the terrific one. Cha means and, manojvaha, as swift as mind. Cha means and, sulohita, red colored. Ya means who, cha means and, sudhumravarna, the smoke colored. Dhumravarna. Sufulingni, the sparkling. Vishwaruchi, the variegated. Cha means and, Devi means worshipful one. Lelai manaha, flickering. Iti means that. Sapt means 7. Jiva means tongue. The 7 flickering tongues of flames are Kali, Karali, Manojva, Sulohita, Sudhumravarnaha, Sulingne, and Vishwaruchi. So just remember that Vedic period was a time prior to these forms which we have in our mandirs these days, whether it's a Lord Ram or Lord Krishna or any Devi. Okay? A seeker who was in the worshipful of spiritualism had to learn his early meditations upon the different types and kinds of flames. Okay? So the fire was the idol actually, idol of the Vedic period. To worship at as well as concentrate upon. And by concentrating upon the different flames, these students, they sharpened their minds. So concentration is very, very important. So we got to learn how to sharpen our mind and how to sharpen our intellect. Only then we can soar towards the glory of the perfections of divinity. So concentration. So then he says in the verse number 5, Eteshu yachartehe bhrajmaneshu yatha kalam cha ahutyah hi addayan tam neyanti eta suryasya rashmya yatra devanam pati ek adhivasah. Eteshu, in these, ya means he, charte, moves, bhrajmaneshu, shining, yatha kalam, in proper time. Cha means and ahutya, oblations. He means verily, addayan, offers. Tam means him, neyanti, lead, etadis, suryasya, of the sun, rashmiya, the rays. Yatra means where, devanam, of the devas, pati, Lord. Ekaha, the one, adhivasaha, dwelling place, adhivasa. He who offers oblations in proper time into these shining flames. See, even pouring the oblations should be done properly. That's what he's talking about. At the proper time, the proper amount. Him the oblations as sun rays lead to the place where the one Lord of the gods resides. One Lord of the gods means the Indra Devata. So that means the Swaragloka. So a very sacred act performed with deep sincerity will mold a performer's mental structure and even change the color of the vasanas. And this is what explained in this beautiful verse. Because when he says that the very ahutya, in the form of the sun's rays, leads him to the Lord of the Devas. See, we got to understand the Vedantic prakriya to understand these verses. See, each sense organ is believed by the Vedic seers. They say there is a Devata presided over each sense organs. And sense organs are what? Our eyes, our ears, our nose, touch and the taste. Eye is presided over by the sun. The ears by the space. It is well known that the organ of vision, the eye, the sense organ, the sound, the ear cannot function unless they are brought into play in the medium of light or space. So if the light principle were not in the world, we would not be able to make use of the instruments called eyes. So for the eye can see forms only when the forms are in the medium of light. If the world is eternally in darkness, the entire humanity would have been blind. Even though we had the organ of vision. So this is what he wants us to understand. These are the devatas. Whenever rishis say that this is a temple we reside in, so all these senses are the devatas. If we treat them like that, we won't pollute this temple of ours. Just like we don't like to pollute the temple, outside temple. This is the inside temple where we reside. Sound can be made only the medium of space. Sound cannot travel if there was no space element. So if there was no space, we could not make sound, and if sound were not, we would have no object to be illumined by the ear. If there's no sound, what can ears do? So each sense has its own devta. That means its own necessary condition to function. So these presiding deities are called the devatas or the devas in Sanskrit terminology. See, deva word has 7 different connotations. Deva. He who shines or gives life is Deva. That's why we call it a Matri Deva, Pitri Deva, Guru Deva, Deva. So he who shines or gives life. Second meaning of Dev is he who bestows wealth. And wealth is in many different forms. Knowledge is a wealth. Any material we need is a wealth. So Dev bestows wealth. He who causes good health, that is a Dev. Andev, when we eat food, when we drink water, those are Devatas. That's why we are not supposed to pollute them. He who shows the path, that's a Dev too. He who makes others shine, that's a Dev. He who sends out music, that's a Dev too. That's why we say it's a music to our ears. When somebody says good words, uplifting, inspiring, he who imparts knowledge and wisdom. So these are the 7 different connotations of the term Dev. We also know that the mind in its functions of reception and correlation is the ruling and governing factor of all the sense organs, mind. Lord Krishna mentioned 5 senses and then he said the 6th. 6th is the mind. So that's how the scriptures accept the mind as the king of the Indriyas. Because naturally its presiding deity becomes none other than the Indra, the king of the gods. So briefly, then the mantra means the conscious actions performed with a deep desire to gain the fruits of, develop the necessary traits and impressions in the mental plane. So that means that outward actions leave a clear trail upon our mind. So that's why it's very important to do the outer actions mindfully, because they are leaving an impression. Outer actions are gone. The physical actions in a few moments or few minutes, they'll be gone. But the impression they put in the mind is long lasting. We got to be careful about that. So even when we do the yajna is being done. Ahutis are given by the hand. The words are spoken with the mouth. In half an hour, we are done with the yajna. But the mental impression which has been imprinted in the mind lasts longer. So no matter which action we do, we got to be careful what kind of impression is being put on our mind. Verse number 6. Ehi ititam ahutyaha suvarchasaha suryasya rashmibhi yajmanam vahanti priyam vacham abhivadanti archayanti ya esha va punye sukritaha Brahmalokaha. Ehi, ehi. That means come here, come here. Iti means that, tam means to him, ahutya, oblations, suvarchasaha, brilliant. Suryasya, of the sun, rashmibhi, through the rays. Yajmanam, sacrificer, vahanti, carry. Priyam, pleasant. Vacham, words. Abhivadanti, addressing. Archayanti, praise. See the word archana? That is praising. Ya means he, Esha this, Va means or, Punya, virtue, Sukrita, good works, good actions. Brahmalokaha, Brahmlok, the world of Brahm. Come here, come here. The brilliant oblations say unto him, and carry the sacrificer through the rays of the sun, addressing to him the pleasant words of praise. This is the holy world of Brahma, gained by the good works. So we follow here the analogy of different people going to different places, different shops also, through the vasanas created by them. The vasana of eating food will take you to a restaurant. Vasana of listening to a music might take you to a record shop or to a concert. Vasanas are the one which takes us towards different places. So the rays of the sun, literally, he's telling us that worshipper to the world of his enjoyments. So the vasanas created in the mind of the performer of the yajna guide him after his death to fix his identity with such a form under such a term of circumstances where his total experience would be exact enjoyment of the fruits of the oblations. Okay, so the vasanas take us, even after we leave this body, based upon vasanas, we'll go to either a Swargalok or a Brahmalok, or we can attain the Brahmalok, or we can go towards the lower loks also, the vasanas. And vasanas are imprinted with the help of the actions. Okay, this is what he's trying to tell us. Verse number 7. Palvahi ete adridaha yagya rupa ashtaha dashoktam avram eshu karma etat shreya ye abhinandanti mudaha jaramrityum te punha ev api yanti. Palva. Palv means boat. He means verily ete these adrida, undependable. See, drid is something which you can depend upon. Adrid, undependable. Yagya rupaha, the form of a yagya. Ashtadash uktam, manned by 18 supporters. Ashtadash. Ash means 8, das means 10. So 18 together. 18 supporters. Avram lowers, Eshu, on whom karma is the ceremonial karma. Etat, this Shreya, highest. Ye means those. Abhinandanti, delight. Like Abhinandan, delight. Mudaha, the ignorant persons. Jara, old age. Mrityu, death. Te means they. Punha, again. Ev means alone. Api, even. Yanti, go. Undependable is the boat of yajna. Manned by 18 supporters, on whom depend the lower ceremonials. Those ignorant persons who delight in this as the highest are subject again and again to old age and death. He's talking about the rituals. When we make rituals as our goal, ritual is just a means. So rituals have certainly a place in the technique of self-perfection. But there is a greater end beyond the rituals. Majority of the people, they confuse the means to be the fulfillment in themselves. They refuse to rise higher than the rituals. And that's why this Rishi, through this mantra, is calling these people ignorant. Ignorant. So means, remember, means are only the means, not the end. See, just like a cup is a means to hold the liquid in it, whether it's a milk or a tea or a water. But whether the cup is tall, made out of silver or gold or any other matter, doesn't matter. What is inside it? So that's what, do not just become so dependent on the rituals alone. That's why he said they are undependable. Undependable. They're only the means. And what are the 18 supporters of Yajna? In the Vedic time, these rituals were done little differently. And they used to have 16 priests. They were called Ritviks. 16 priests. They will sit in different directions, and some of them will be just supporting the main priests and sing all those hymns. These days it's difficult to find even one priest. How can we find 16 priests? That's why rituals have changed. So in Vedic time, 16 priests and house soldier who is called a Yajman and his wife. So 16 plus 2, 18. You remember Lord Ram when he was going to do the yajna? Sita was not there. Without Sita, he could not even finish the yajna. So they had to make a statue of Sita made out of gold. It looked like Sita. Okay. So these 18 are important limbs in some kind of rituals which are performed with where some selfish desires are. Okay, it's called a Sakam Bhakti, highly ritualistic. But no matter how great the ritual, how strictly it has been performed, she is saying that performer can only hope for comparative success and can reach at least only a mid station on this voyage of truth. Why mid station? Because he is saying that we'll have to come back again. Cannot reach to the highest, cannot reach to the Brahmalok. So that's why he says that those ignorant persons who delight in this as the highest are subject again and again to old age and death. That means we'll have to come back again, take birth again, go through that growth also, disease also, decay also, death also. These are the 5 great changes that provide the human beings, which we call pain of life. Okay, so he's not saying that don't do the rituals, but remember, rituals are only the preparation for the higher. Okay, so verse number 8. अविद्यायाम अंतरे वर्तमाना स्वयं धीरः पंडितम मन्यमाना जगन्यमाना पर्यन्ति मूढ़ः अंधेन एव नियमाना यथा अंधा. Avidyayam, in ignorance, antre, in the middle of, vartamanaha, gloating, or ignorant beings, swayam, themselves, dhiraha, wise, panditam, learned, manyamana, fencing, jaganyamanaha, oppressed and miserable. Pariyanti, go round and round. Mudaha, the ignorant. Andhen, by the blind. Ev means alone. Niyamana, when led. Yatha means as. Andha, the blind. Ignorant beings, gloating in the midst of ignorance, but fancying themselves to be wise and learned, go round and round, oppressed and miserable, as blind people when led by the blind. So in the earlier part of the Vedas, in the Karma Kand, there is a sincere advocacy of the performance of the karmas, but the later on, and karma, I mean, that means rituals. In the Upanishadic portion, we find verse like this. So it's almost like a very vehemently, the rishis, they condemn the same. In earlier portion, they say do the rituals, later on they condemn them. Sometimes, if you don't understand it properly, we think they are contradicting themselves. But remember, when we were in elementary classes or when our children were in elementary classes, we insisted that they should repeat or daily read or learn, memorize the multiplication tables. But when they reach the higher classes, higher standard of the pure mathematics, it was absurd to even memorize those or read those. I mean, even during his postgraduate studies, if he still insists that they should do that, how absurd that will be. So the same way the rituals have an elementary purpose, remember that. Without which nothing higher is possible. Because the rituals, through the rituals we are supposed to control our mind, purify our mind. But if we continue wasting the entire life in mere ritualism, or think that rituals are the goal, and don't even move higher with the help of the rituals, that's why he's saying that you are wasting yourself, blind leading the blind. So in that sense, this mantra is written, so understand it in its right. Number 9. Avidyayam bahuda vartamanaha vayam kritarthi iti abhimanyanti balaha yat karminaha na pravadenti gat ten aturaha kushin lokachavante. Avidyayam, in the ways of the ignorant, bahuda, many, vartamanaha, present, vayam, we, kritartha, reach the goal. Iti means that, abhimanyanti, thinks, balaha, people of childish nature. Yat means, yat karminaha, the men of actions. Na means not, pravedyanti, attain knowledge. Ragat, by attachment or by passion. Ten means by that, aturaha, motivated by, kashin lokaha, fruits of their good deeds. That means they have been exhausted. The fruits of the good deeds have exhausted. Kashin. Chiyavantehe fall down. So engrossed in the ways of the ignorant, these people childishly think that they have gained the end of life. But being subject to passions and attachment, they never attain knowledge. And therefore they fall down wretched when the fruits of their good deeds are exhausted. So this verse is again a repetition for the purpose of emphasis, what he's talking about in the last few verses. So it's such a seekers, he's saying, who think that ritualism is the only thing. And they are doing the rituals prompted by desires and wishing to pacify them by fulfilling them. They perform the karma kanda. I want to do this, I want to go to the temple, I want to do the yajna because I want this outcome. So prompted by the selfish desires. So we have already seen in the beginning how desires only multiply. As each desire gets fulfilled, unless the source of the eruption of desire is dried up or choked, it will keep on multiplying. Sky is the limit for the desires. So it is the desire, as we have seen, that generates the flow of thought in the mind. And it is again the quality, texture, quantity, and the direction in which the thought flow that determine the actions. So the karma cannot be where desires have ended. Thoughts cannot end where desires have not ceased. Because if the thoughts keep on bubbling, the mind becomes denser and denser. So that's why it said manonasham, that is like annihilation of the mind, is possible only when the desires are annihilated. So this is the diagnosis he is giving. What is the cure for this disease? So to be intelligently discriminative, aware of the world of the objects, to know this is all temporary. So in the following mantra, he is giving us a prescription for that. So he's telling us what the disease is. He's telling us which way the disease cannot be taken care of. Rituals cannot do it. So then how do we do it? How do we get over it? Let's do one more verse. Verse number 10. Ishtaha purtam manyamanaha varishtam na anyat shreha vedyante pramudaha na kasya prishte te sukrite anubhutva imam lokam hintaram va vishantihi. Ishtaha purtam. Sacrificial and charitable acts. These are the two kinds of act, Isht and Purta. Manyamanaha, regarding. Varishtam, most important. Na means not, anyat, any other thing. Shreya, bliss. Vedyante, no. Pramudaha, those ignorant people. Nakasya, of the heaven. Prishthe, in the side of. Te means they, sukrite, good deeds. Anubhutva, having enjoyed. Imam means this. Lokam means the world. Hintaram, inferior. Va means or. Vishanti, enter. These ignorant people, regarding sacrificial and charitable acts, as most important, do not know any other way of bliss. Having enjoyed in the heights of heaven, the abode of pleasures, they enter again into this or even inferior worlds. We all know that Karma and Gyan have been a tug of war. Some people say no, the Gyan Kand is better. Some people say the Karma Kand. It's an endless controversy. Meritorious acts are divided into two groups. We know that. We have learned it from other scriptures also by our ancient rishis. Noble acts of spiritual merit advocated in our scriptures is called Ishtam. Ishtam. That's where the yagyas are done. So Ishtams are yagya. And those prescribed in the Smritis. And then what are the Purtams then? Purtams are, in the old times, they would build a well for the villagers. That's a Purtam. Or make a building where anybody can come and spend the night, which is called a Dharamshala. Feeding the poor, taking care of the sick, helping somebody monetarily for their education. These are all called Purtam. So the meritorious acts of both categories in their reactions only provide for us a subtler field of experience called the heavens. So they both are good. Ishta and Purta both are good, but they can take us only to the certain level, which is called a heaven. A person who has gained the heavens as a result of these meritorious acts performed by him will have one day when all those good karmas have exhausted. When the good karmas are exhausted, you'll have to come back again. To this level where we are, where the pain and the struggle is there, failure and success is here, loss and gain is here, death and birth are also part of our life. So this earthly abode will have to come back if we do only the Ishtam and the Purtam kind of actions. So that means the Karma Kand and even these good deeds, so-called good deeds also. So he's not saying that don't do this, but remember that these can take us. This is not the ultimate place. This is what he's telling us. And Nakasya word, it's used very peculiar way over here. We know the word kam, we know the word na also. So, and akam also. So, akam naturally means the pain. And na akam, that is na nakasya. If you break it down, say na plus akam, that means where pain is unknown. So, sure, in the heaven, there's no pain. So that's why nakasya word is for the heaven. There's no pain there, but that is not a place till eternity. That is not the ultimate. Even though the Devtas, they live there a long time, but ultimately they have to come back. Okay? So heaven is that where there's no pain of mortal life. As a human being, sure, we go through pain and we go through pleasure. So it's like a relative happiness there. It's not the absolute state of perfection. Absolute state of perfection is what? The moksha, the liberation. That is absolute state. So in this particular mantra, it is said that having enjoyed the fruits of all meritorious acts, the ego center may enter again the world of the lower one. Okay, and then we'll see next week continuation of this, that how he's telling us to even go above this, because we don't want to. So in today's reading, we learned that sure, do these actions, good actions, keep on doing it, but don't think that this is the goal. This is the means, not the goal. Okay, so we'll start next week with verse number 11. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.